removing videos talking about immigration, demonetizing accounts for discussing climate change, or labeling political satire as harmful. According to many, this is how the internet control system works in Germany. In theory, combating hate speech and protecting users. In practice, interference with freedom of speech on an unprecedented scale.
Informacje bardzo niepokojące.
This is very disturbing information. We know that restricting freedom of speech is the first step towards restricting other freedoms. We should do everything we can to ensure that Poland is a country where Polish internet users may write whatever they want online. And that may be difficult. Over 300 institutions are involved in reporting online content. These include ministries and universities. They have a special status as trusted reporters. So if they decide that something does not meet their standards of freedom of expression, the content simply disappears.
Cała ta siatka sygnalistów.
This entire network will inevitably be replaced by automated systems that will create a system for controlling and censoring content. This system has either already been created or will be created soon, and no information will escape its attention. In an era of restricted freedom of speech, attention should be paid to opinions expressed on social media. What's worse, this model isn't meant to operate only in Berlin. Experts have no doubt that it will go far beyond Germany's borders and become the model for all of Europe. Under the guise of the so-called fight against disinformation, the European Union is actually seeking to introduce censorship on the internet, censorship of the content that Poles read and produce on social media. They want to usurp rights and for some official to decide what should and should not be on the internet. In the opinion of the Polish President's office, this is a dangerous situation. That is why analysts are proposing simple safeguards. Instead of secret reports, details of who is removing material and why it should be public information. Experts also emphasize the need for easy appeal by users and special protection for political and satirical content so that it does not disappear from the internet under the guise of so-called security. Unfortunately, Western Europe, which for decades was a model of freedom for the Eastern Bloc, is now becoming more and more like the world described in Orwell's books. Freedom of speech is under threat in countries such as Germany, the United Kingdom and France. We know of cases of people being arrested in the United Kingdom simply for praying silently in front of abortion clinics. Germany, by introducing internet content monitoring, is cracking down on those who openly discuss problems of German society. Already today, there is no shortage of situations in Poland that are reminiscent of the communist era and the restriction of freedom of speech. An example? A few months ago in Gdansk, during election season, a man hung a banner on his balcony with the words, "Anything but Trzaskowski," during a visit by Trzaskowski, the candidate from the ruling party. The matter ended with police intervention in his room and an order to remove the banner. A similar situation took place when Mr. Kazimierz Litka, a resident of Nadazhin near Warsaw, hung a banner on the fence of his property with a graphic of the so-called Vistula line and the slogan, "They wanted to give half of Poland to the enemy," and a photo of Donald Tusk. The poster references an official military doctrine from the years when Donald Tusk was Prime Minister for the first time in the late 2000s, when Poland's official doctrine for war against an attacker from the east was to retreat all the way behind the Vistula. The poster caused emotions and reactions from the police, who quickly intervened. They told me to take down the banner because I was spreading hate speech. I looked for a smiling photo of him in the media, but couldn't find one, so I used the one that shows him as he is. And these are not the only cases that show that the boundaries of freedom of speech can be disturbingly fluid, as they are interpreted arbitrarily by politicians. The Polish government is also moving in this direction, the best example of which is the use of preventative censorship against opposition-aligned journalists, for example, by not allowing them to attend press conferences or by not providing public information. If this German model is transferred to Poland, freedom of speech will become an empty slogan. The repealing of free speech almost always looks exactly the same, salami slicing via harsh rulings on borderline cases and the use of combating disinformation or hateful conduct as a pretext. If not stopped, Poland, and Europe more broadly, could easily sleepwalk into becoming yet another oppressive, censorship-heavy autocracy.